I'd sooner accept a coin to send an innocent soul to hell. Don't go to Morton Abbey, miss. Isn't that exactly why we want to go? Seriously, this book we're talking about today, within like the first 3% of the book, she must have gotten 5 warnings about going to Morton Abbey. I mean, other than Morton Abbey actually lighting up and saying, "Get out." Perfect for this time of year. All right, can you feel the excitement? The excitement is here because this is my first book received through NetGalley that I got to do a review on. I just signed up with NetGalley, and I think it's something that's kind of interesting. I've been fearful just because I thought I'm going to get inundated, I'm going to go overboard, I'm going to go crazy. But one of the things that's kind of cool about the whole process is that you kind of have to earn your way. So I was really conscious about what books I was asking for. And I have to tell you, I was really surprised how many I actually have been given so far. And the reason for that surprise is because I don't have any established background on NetGalley at all. And to have this be my first one at the perfect time of year. So today I am talking about The Curse of Morton Abbey. And it is set for release of October 26th. So I wanted to get this review up because I want to encourage everybody. This is something that's perfect for this time of year for us to be reading. It is right there with Victober in that it's not a Victorian author, but it is a Victorian Gothic sensational novel, at least written that way. Obviously, the author is a huge fan and devotee to all things Victorian in the literature world. And looking up her background, it looks like she has quite an extensive knowledge, and it comes through in this book. But there's a couple twists, which I really appreciated. So let's talk about what the book's about. So I just am going to insert myself here a little bit. And this is the legal jargon aspect, just knowing that this book was not a purchase of my own. It was provided by the publisher through NetGalley for an independent review. And that's what this is, an independent review. So, the most difficult thing of this whole book is knowing what this character's name is and how it's pronounced. I have never seen it before. I'm going to put it up here for you guys to see it, but as you can see, wherever I put it, maybe there, that is spelled V-A-U-G-H-A-N. Now, I started reading this immediately thinking it was Vaughn, and then all of a sudden I noticed there was an A. So I'm not sure if it's Vaughan is her name or not, but her name is key. That's the interesting part. Because this whole thing is about a young lady who's worked with her father her entire life, and he dies 3 months prior to when we meet up with her. And he was a solicitor. And she did all of his paperwork. She read, she researched, she did everything. And as she likes to say, she is a solicitor in everything but name. Because at that time, there weren't many, if any, female solicitors. And they definitely weren't getting the education. But her father treated her very much like she could do anything she wanted. The reason is because she has a bad leg. We never really hear what it is, but it does play in the role, and I actually really like it because we have a heroine who's not perfect. And I appreciate that in a Victorian novel. There's a bit of romance that's going to be happening in this as well, so it's kind of nice to have that, what would have been a very physical, noticeable disability that she would have had. And most people in Victorian times probably were going to be very focused on that disability. On top of that, another disability was she was a woman, and she was the 5th of 5 sisters, which means she's probably not going to even get married. She has a disability. But her dad didn't treat her that way, and he worked her really hard, and she developed the skills. So she now has written and applied for a job, but she was very ambiguous and didn't say anything about her her gender, and nothing about the bad leg. because there is some physical needs in this role as far as being able to pick up stuff and move stuff around. She's been underestimated her entire life, except by her father. And what's really funny is she has some colorful language to prove that she spent a lot of time with him. So she sounds like a really likable character. She's sassy, she's all this. I will say she was a little bit too much for me, in the fact that I thought she was a little too snippy, and she was incredibly ridiculously nosy. But I guess if we didn't have those capabilities, this story would have went nowhere. So we meet her, she's preparing to depart because she's heading to Yorkshire from London to go out to this house, Morton Abbey. And her whole role is to get it prepared for sale. And there's supposedly tons of paperwork to go through and to verify that this house can be sold because it's an inherited house. And she's hired by a gentleman who never meets her. But the minute she gets there, we start hearing the warnings. She hears about a mad and locked up second son there at Morton Abbey, and this creepy servants are all there telling her, you know, beware, don't go over there, lock your door at night, all this. She's awoken the very first day with gunshots going, but everybody acting like nothing happened. So it starts off right from the beginning giving you that feel of a Gothic novel. Perfect. Setting is set, and it's brilliant. As I said, at first I didn't find the main character likable. Like, I don't know that I would want to sit down and have well, yeah, she was quite intelligent, so I probably still want to sit down and have a cup of tea. But it was very jarring with kind of the views that you might have, and it's kind of surprising for a woman of that era to be this way. She comes off as being kind of stale and unemotional, even kind of abrasive. But I will say that I think that her behaviors, once we know a little bit of her backstory, absolutely makes sense. So I'm fine with that. It's a modern feeling heroine in a very traditional Gothic sensational novel, and I felt like it did work. You know, it's always a great sign when a character evokes any type of feelings about you, and I had opinions about her. Sometimes they changed, but I like that. And you know, almost every character you meet, you develop a feeling about. And then, as I said before, the atmosphere is pitch perfect throughout. You know, and it doesn't just include the house setting, it's when you move out into the gardens and whenever you go to a local village and when you come back. I mean, it just stays with it. And I thought that was really well done. Now, overall, the pacing and writing really add to the story enjoyment. It worked. The plot twists, which were more like swerves, and they were used really effectively to increase kind of your intrigue. But the final section, it did feel a bit rushed. I was no longer discovering, but rather being told what the key points were. There was some characters introduced at the end that I think actually would have benefited being introduced earlier and would have added to the story rather than having to learn so much about them so quickly in such a forced manner. But perhaps it was to keep pages down. I could totally see that being possibly the reason. But I think that this book could have been even a little longer and would have been more interesting had those characters been sprinkled in. There is a bit of romance in the air, as I said earlier, but it's slow burning and really just kind of adds to the mysteriousness of the story. And I know when I was looking around, there was references to Secret Garden and Jane Eyre. But, you know, if truth be told, I really was getting Beauty and the Beast kind of vibes. I mean, there's an amazing giant house. There's these servants. They aren't, you know, magical, but they're characters coming and you're only interacting with them for the longest. You have the mysterious guy that, you know, hired you, but then there's this mysterious other guy that's off in this bedroom. A lot happens in the library, and it sounds like an amazing library. But it was the awkwardness kind of, and more in regards to the romance that does end up kind of happening. It felt awkward, kind of like Beauty and the Beast. And her intelligence and tenaciousness definitely rings of bell. So that was more my feeling. But overall, if this premise intrigues you at all, if this sounds like something that you would typically pick up, go ahead, pick this book up. I totally recommend it for that. If it's a premise that you don't like and you're like, I'm not into Gothic sensational, then don't, because it's dripping and oozing in it the whole time. So I am so excited to be giving this review. I am excited that my first book was so great. Now I am going to only probably give it 4 stars. Again, it's one of those things where would I pick it up and read it again? I don't know that I would. Again, recommending who all I can recommend it to, but it's a solid 4, if not a little bit higher. And if you are interested in this type of story, I think it's a great read, and it's perfect for this time of year. So first one out of the NetGalley is definitely a thumbs up for me, and I really enjoyed it and looking forward to my future reads, because guess what? I've been approved for more.